All right.
Cool. Thank you, Tiffany, for having the time to participate and to share your journey and more about the company that you work for. So I think the most interesting part, personal for me, and I think for other people, will be your personal journey. So maybe you can start from there.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll just give a quick intro to myself. So I'm Tiffany. I currently work as a program manager, investor relations manager at GeniusX. And for those who are not familiar with GeniusX, originated from the Genius Yield, which is a decentralized exchange building on Cardano. And GeniusX is an accelerator program and launchpad helping early stage projects that are building on Cardano, and there are many different ventures. So we're helping, giving advice from token design to on all the side of like legal entity setup, like on the token classification, marketing, white paper writing, pitch deck presentation, and also on fundraising strategy and connection to relevant strategic partnerships and investors. So it's really a whole comprehensive program that is planned around each of the startups' needs and different stages of development. And just, I guess, just like everyone else who's working in the blockchain industry, I've made a lot of jumps in my career to get here. It was never a very, simple journey or simple line that got me to where I am today. So that's, I guess that's where I'm here to share a bit about my story and how I came into working in this industry and into an accelerator program. So yeah, I mean, I started actually from education side in university. I started with studying architecture. Then from architecture, I started working in interior design firms, and kind of went from there from just working on designs and working behind the computer and working on like AutoCAD and Photoshop into, more towards project management, because that's where naturally I felt like I thrived, because I really like organization and structure and finding like implementations and tools that will improve work efficiency. And then from project management, I leaped into then in like Dassault System, which is a technology company, and one of the branches which is focused on 3D design and CG images for animation movies like AR, VR. And specifically, I was working with like big automotive clients in Belgium. So again, that's like quite a big jump from industry to industry. And then like just naturally working in a big corporate like company and a very corporate structure, I felt like it wasn't challenging enough. Like I'm just the kind of person who thrives for challenge and to constantly be on a really steep learning curve and continuously improve myself. And I felt at a point that it was a bit stagnating, and there's a lot of limitations when it comes to working in a really big like corporative structure. So I wanted to look for something to work in a more like startup environment where I feel like I could thrive better, where I could be more hands-on and wear many different hats and just really like meet like what is my maximum potential on a career level. And I've always been interested in blockchain technology ever since I started hearing about it in 2017 from friends who were, investing in whatever, like they didn't understand what they're putting their money into, just watching things go up, watching things go down. I was always very curious, and I knew that there would be a place for blockchain technology in the future. So I was always kind of tracking, what is going on from 2017. And I really only started to get into it last year, actually, in 2021, where I went to some like blockchain events that were happening where I live now in Brussels, Belgium. And through that, I got to meet a lot of great people and happened to help work as an operations manager and project manager, like on the side of my my actual job with 2 very early stage startups. So that was like really my introduction into blockchain technology. And I started to, research myself on the side. really started to get into, working with startups. And then that's where I found like Genius Yield and Genius X by chance. And of course, I think Genius Yield is a project that is relatively, quite well known within the community. And I studied a bit about the partners and the founding team. That was kind of like my own due diligence process that I did to see if this is legit or not, because you never know with working in crypto industry if things are real or if you're gonna, be scammed later on. So that was like my own due diligence process. And then I discovered this role of Genius X and this new accelerator program that's helping Cardano startups build and make sure that they can succeed, have better chances of succeeding in their different ventures. And I felt like it was like the perfect, role for me. Like also Genius X just started like beginning of this year in January. So it's also a startup. So I get to be in this function where I get to really be hands-on and add value from many different directions and be able to implement a lot of new how do you say improvements in different areas of the company.
Just a quick question. Just a quick question, sir, to interrupt you. Does anyone know the company Genius X? Are you all familiar, or Megan, you're not? How about others? How many people know about the company? Shay, you don't know?
Partaking in the ISPO.
Yeah.
Well, just like to say, like, you can take all of my hand gestures seriously, except for this one and that one, because those just like hand gestures for the camera. Yeah, so I'm not raising my hand. If I raise my hand, I would use the Zoom tool to do so. But like this, yes.
All right.
That's it.
Cool. So, George, you know about the company Genius X?
Yeah, I'm part of the ISPO, but that's about it.
Cool.
I think it's quite normal. Yeah, I think a lot of people have heard of like Genius Yield and Genius X from the ISPO. Now recently we launched this multi-token ISPO featuring 5 different projects that have come from the Accelerator program. I think there's a lot of ads and a lot of marketing push that has been put for that because we want to make sure that we can support these projects that are participating in this ISPO. Since all the funding, basically all the staking rewards go to these 5 projects. But yeah, in a nutshell, Genius X is an accelerator program. We are, maybe I'll be repeating myself a little bit, but we structured a program. So it's not like a curriculum-based program. We really assess and structure it based on the milestones and the roadmap of each individual startup. So it really depends on where they are in their journey. Maybe some need a lot of help to set up like their legal entity, or they don't have any legal advice. So they need partners and advice on that hand. Or maybe others are, need help in their fundraising if they aim to raise in private. So we can also help with, their pitch deck presentation, pitch training, and connection to relevant investors and VCs. Maybe some others need help in their MVP design. So whether it's like coming from UX UI design or on the technical support, like we are also able to do that. So there is really no limitation, let's say, to what kind of support we're able to provide. It really depends on each startup, what are their needs, and we try to cater to those needs as much as possible. And the vision or mission that we have as a program is that by helping these really first of all, it's working with great founders. What we like to do as a program is to work with great founders who are on the edge of technology, who are really intelligent, capable, who are building something that is world changing, that is also going to grow out the ecosystem and be a positive force to the Cardano ecosystem. And we want to be able to help them succeed and make sure that they're set on the right path to succeed in their ventures. And by working with these different startups, in essence, we kind of we're not just thinking about the short term, just having them in our program, but we would like to think more in the long term to track their process and establish that kind of connection, like really create like grow out this ecosystem that's not just growing out like our own Genius X family, but also in some sense like growing a very strong set of projects that are building within the Cardano ecosystem. So yeah, I hope that maybe that was a bit more than bit more of a bigger explanation.
Can you share some key learnings from working and accelerating companies?
Yeah, I don't know if it's like key learnings from a startup point of view, or maybe from my personal perspective, or both.
Both.
Would you prefer?
Yeah.
Both? I mean, overall, I think one of the key learning points that I had was how important it is to share your story, and by conveying like what you want to achieve and like your mission. By having this kind of like open line of communication, you build like the confidence and trust of your target audience, and like you also build a certain conviction yourself for what you're doing. So I think it's very important to always like discuss and communicate your intentions, like what you want to do as a startup, what is your vision, but also in general, like on a career level, like to also communicate that openly, like how you see, envision things moving forwards. What is the value that you want to continue to add as in the company? That is like I don't know, that's at least my key learning of the way to really progress and proceed forwards, and always make sure that your own like values are in line with what you're doing as a job. Yeah.
Any thoughts, questions so far?
Sorry,
Okay.
so GYA is a token that is minted by Genius X, the company. Yes.
So there's a Genius Sealed and Genius X, and most recently also Genius Academy. So this is like the whole branches of Genius Labs. Genius Sealed is they're gonna have their token launching soon. That's the Gens, GENS. And then Genius X is also gonna have its token, which is Gens X. So it's GNS and then X afterwards.
So Genius Labs is a DAO.
It's not a DAO.
It's a legal entity.
Yeah.
In what, the United States?
And Switzerland.
And those subsidiaries, I guess, they're all represented by a token. That's kind of like their stock, like their share. That's how it works.
I mean, that's one way to look at tokens. But usually, token, like there are a lot more, additional token utilities for each of these different subsidiaries. Genius Academy I don't think they're having a token anytime soon, or I don't know if there's even a plan to launch a token there. But yeah, Genius Yield and Genius X are very different business models, so they would have quite a different like token utilities tied to those tokens.
Okay, but so we're basically we're unifying the consumption of the function that the subsidiary is offering, and the utility of a share as a vote of confidence and financial instrument, yada yada yada.
Yeah, I mean, in some sense.
Okay, sorry, it was a bit of a tangent, but
it's all right.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I want to know if you're investing as well. And first of all, I mean, well done, and I mean, thank you for doing this. I think it's very important. I mean, mentorship for Catalyst Project and Cardano Projects. So well done on that. Bravo, doing it and trying to scale it. You're also investing in projects yourself. You have an investment strategy, or you're just supporting companies to get investment?
So we don't have like a fund, or we don't do direct investments into the projects. So our program is purely like advisory, mentorship based.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you do it as a service to the community, or you do it as a fee, or as a service for the community in general?
So yeah, there is a fee, like a standard fee. I mean, the terms are always negotiable and depend on the stage of the project. So in what we spend in terms of like manpower and like the team that is dedicated to those startup projects and the amount of time that we need to help to spend on them to go through the program, we take like a small percentage and either equity, total token supply, or in the amount fundraised. So it really depends from case by case.
Okay. Now, I would be very interested to hear your opinion also about, investors getting tokens versus and happy to get tokens versus investor getting equity in a company. If you can a little bit talk about that. I know it's a big issue, but it's very interesting model, like
Yeah.
for early investors.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, in one sense, like token allows for earlier exit strategy, which is great. But at the same time, for like projects that are purely raising in token, the challenge can be that if there isn't a strong enough like token model, like utilities that actually incentivize users to hold those tokens, then that can be quite like worrying or like difficult for investors to just purely invest in tokens, especially if startups are issuing the tokens like before they even have a product launch, or they actually can generate like revenue streams from those tokens. It can be quite a challenge. And I think that's why, at least nowadays, I'm seeing more and more investors who are more interested to look into equity deals or like equity with token warrant, just because that kind of mitigates risk. And also with like today's market conditions, I think that the sentiment has like changed. Like maybe before there were a lot more like Web3 focused VCs who are open to just like token deals, but now like that environment has been changing to shift more towards equity or like equity with token warrants, or like a combination of equity and tokens.
Thank you for that. I have more questions. If someone has questions, just raise the hand and I will stop. But another
It's a bit
question.
meta. I have questions about like all that.
Go for it. So,
Yeah. So wait, did we notice that? So we have utility tokens and equity tokens, right? Those are, or like when you say equity, you mean like in the old school sense?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, but like, so is it, so like in some cases, the utility token, the utility and the equity can coincide in the same token?
I don't know if I clearly understand. So basically, like if you have a company, you can have several shareholders. You can have, you can have
Right,
several,
like in the old
shareholders
school
in your cap
sense,
table.
like in the like, I don't know, like the NASDAQ or whatever, yeah. Or you can issue tokens, or you can do that, right? You can issue tokens that represent equity, or don't they?
Well, so it depends on how you, some people perceive, let's say, like holding a certain percentage of tokens in a way, like you're a certain like shareholder into that company, right? It also depends on how the token is structured, but let's say like if you have 5% of all the total token supply, then that is quite a significant amount. Like that in some sense, like you have a share into that company, either that goes with like governance, like some tokens you have governance rights, so you can actually have a say into what happens, or into voting rights.
So let's say I'm fictional entity, crypto Acme Co Inc, whatever. I want to render, I render services through a utility token, and I distribute my equity through another token, right? Like, and those can either be separate or they can be the same one. That was like the question, and I was like, right, like that. So we understand what I'm like. We're on the same page of what I'm trying to say.
Happy for anyone to also.
No, the equity doesn't have to be token, right? The equity
no, it doesn't have
to,
to, but it can be.
It can be. It can be also
it can be a
represent
token,
a
it can be another token, and it can be two separate tokens, and it can be the same one.
Well, I
I'm just
think
like,
that
yeah, I was like, want to
think-
know, I'm trying to understand the tokenomics of the specific here.
I think the discussion is a little bit off from an investor.
Absolutely, yeah.
So from an investor's perspective, there is a notion now recognized in the market.
Mm-hmm.
While Web3 investors in the past were very happy to take tokens, now it's shifting back to the classical, I want to have equity in form of shares of the company.
Okay.
Yeah. And then obviously kind of to bring your project alive, it might be valuable in itself to have tokens. So let me give you an example, and then more as becomes clear. You asked for an investment, and there is a development in itself kind of to be done. Then it's effectively kind of like a development team, a management team, which is kind of in a company structure, and you are asking for money to kind of bring this project to life. An investor often would ask in that context in exchange for funds to have effectively equity in the company, so shares in a classical sense. The projects you are launching then at a certain moment in time might need a different legal structure anyhow. Yeah, so kind of some of the Web3 projects kind of get developed, but more or less to bring them into life, it might be necessary kind of to put them into a legal structure so that you can establish a DAO, and that in itself might then lead to governance tokens or just utility tokens, depending effectively on the use case of the token as such. So the notion in itself, which kind of can be recognized, is that investors try to have more influence in the decision-making process of the development companies, and they try to establish that through shareholding, yeah, voting rights in form of shares, or kind of like a preferred share to more or less kind of get returns back faster. In the past, that was more in the token side. Now the model seems to be like, for some parts where kind of like an influence of an investor is relevant, they prefer to take the classical approach, but they're also happy then to take some tokens, whether that are utility tokens, probably not so interesting for them, but tokens in form of a security, obviously interesting for them. So in that case, they have the control over the company, but they have on the other side, due to the fact that they have token holding, the ability kind of to liquidate the position a lot faster, because tokens in itself from a holding perspective is probably half the time as if you would hold shareholding in a company. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are at the moment from a market perspective.
Okay, Thorsten, that's your name?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, because like you actually picked up on what I was trying to like say better than I could say it. So thank you. That was really helpful.
Good. So I have another question. How do you feel today? I mean, the market today, obviously, are challenging, but many investors say that this is time to build, right? When the markets are down and challenging and kind of so on. So how do you feel with your investment network? Is there appetite to invest in Web3 projects on Cardano? And also, if you can a little bit elaborate about your network of investors.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, also on a personal level, like now is the time to invest, right? Valuations are lower, so like it's in some sense like things are on sale. Like it's much better to invest now than it would have been like when markets were at the high peak moments. And in terms of like investor sentiment, especially like in terms of the network we have, it's mostly with like VCs who are focused on Web3 startups. Definitely like investments are still ongoing. Like it's definitely picked up in the past month in comparison to like back in May, when a lot of funds were on hold, or were, people were re-strategizing on their portfolios and how to execute on their funds. And now like things have started to pick up a bit more. But when it comes to like investments in Cardano, that is still quite a challenge, I have to say. I have been having a lot of discussions with investors where, you feel like you have to kind of educate a lot of investors on Cardano and on what is happening in the ecosystem. There's definitely not enough attention, or a lot of like investors are not aware about the number of projects that are building here and what are the capabilities of the technology itself, which is a shame. And that's something that we're really trying to do as well as GeniusX, like to inform and provide like the relevant data and statistics on the Cardano ecosystem, and start those conversations and discussions with investors, because a lot of them are still kind of, a lot of the argument is like, oh, we're waiting to see like, you know, the traction and a bit more things happening in the space, and you know, it's still a bit too early stages, and they're a bit more attracted to maybe other ecosystems that are, you know, building at a much faster pace and attracting a lot more VC attention. So yeah, that's actually been a really interesting learning lesson with a lot of conversations I've been having with investors. And I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for all the answers.
Yeah, thank you, Ram.
I mean, I can keep on, so, but if someone have questions, I mean.
Interesting to know about the description around
Not legible.
Yeah, sorry, Natalie, can you repeat? I couldn't hear the
Sorry.
first part.
Can you hear me? No?
It's a bit not clear, your audio.
Fishbowly.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, you're on mute, Natalie. Okay, let me ask another question.
Yeah,
which
go
you
ahead.
can, how many companies you're planning to help? I mean, how many, like, you're planning to help 5, 10, 20 the next 12 months? I mean, and then in what stages you're looking for? Really early stage, funded on Catalyst, or I mean, what's the
Yeah.
kind of parameters you're looking to help?
So at the moment, so we started in January this year. At the moment, we have about 15, 16 startups in the program. So I think by the end of the year, our aim is to reach around like a number of 20. Yeah, I think, and then for the next year, I guess it will be around the same number or maybe a little bit more. It really depends on how we also expand as a team, if we can get more hands-on, you know, support to have this kind of one-on-one dedication and mentoring for each of these startups. But yeah, at the moment we are being relatively like selective to an extent. We're, you know, choosing like onboarding like 1 to 2 startups maybe every month, no more than that. And in terms of like what the stage of the project we're looking at, we accept applications, like anyone can apply to our program. But we really like to see projects that have some level of traction, like proof of concept. And if they're working towards an MVP or have an MVP, or if they're MVP ready, that's even better. So it really depends on like the industry that they're building in, what is the traction, and like what they have been able to showcase so far that they're capable of executing on their ideas. Those that are projects like we're more than happy to review and that we like to see come our way. And for us, like what's more great to see is like, you know, to have that engagement and communication with founders, great founders that are like helping to build out the ecosystem.
Perfect. And it's not, it's kind of specific, for example, for finance, or it can be also, I don't know, agriculture, or no, it's basically any project on the blockchain on Cardano can apply, any startup.
Yeah,
But
correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And,
No,
and we
very
want to,
interesting.
yeah, of course, like it's great to, you know, it's important that like blockchain is a integral part to the business. So like if you know, startups are planning to issue a token, that makes sense to their business model. Also because like, of course, building on Cardano, you can, you know, launch your own ISPO as well. So we need to ensure that it makes sense that if these projects want to launch their own token or launch their own ISPO, that there's a real utility there, and that's sustainable to their business model.
Nice. Can you hear me now? Is this audio better?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I just wanted to ask more about, you mentioned about having to, I guess, sort of convince investors of the unique benefits of Cardano as an ecosystem to build within. What I'm curious to know what your argument is, or what you relay, because that's a question that we get asked as well, building upon Cardano, and we have a response, but yeah, I'm really curious to hear what you respond with, what your argument is.
Yeah, we have actually we prepared a 3-page overview on this that we share. But yeah, mainly one area that I would argue is about the number of projects that are building. Many investors don't realize that there are over 1,000 projects that are building Cardano, and what that has been since the end of just about a year ago. That's with the smart contract capabilities that projects have been able to build. So and also a lot of investors are not aware about ISPOs, and that's very unique model that is capable in Cardano, and as well as the number of wallets and delegators and the amount of ADA that is being delegated into all the pools. That is actually quite a significant number, and it comes to show that the community that is the Cardano community is quite strong. So that's usually the areas that I would focus on. On top of that, I mean, personally, I'm not a technical developer. I'm not a builder, so it's hard for me to relay the message to investors about the programming language and how it's built out, and how that's more on a higher level, or it's more mature than maybe other programming languages on other blockchains. But I always usually tell investors that that's always something interesting to have a discussion with actual builders and founders who are building within the space, to really understand why they chose, because anyone who wants to build on blockchain, usually I guess they study themselves, right? They decide which chain they want to launch their startup on. So I think that's always the most interesting conversations to have, is directly with those founders. Then you really understand why, whether it's the security, or yeah, if it's the developer tools that are available that, then you really gain an insight as to why it's superior perhaps to building on other chains.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Natalie.
How do I know there's 5 projects on the multi ISPO. What is that going to be a continuous thing? Is that going to be a one-off, that when this ISPO that's done, or is it a case that there'll be other projects coming into an ISPO in the later stage? And then obviously it sounds like you're taking on new projects, so some are part of this ISPO and some aren't. So just interested to hear about the dynamics of that.
Yeah. Well, our plan is actually we would like to continue the ISPO mechanism after even this one that we've just launched now. And the idea is to always have different projects that are within that ISPO. Of course, it depends on how well it goes, and hopefully that people are continue to believe in these different projects that are within the GeniusX ISPO, and want to help them in their funding, because it can be, what we learned is that it can be really challenging right now in the ISPO. There's just so much competition, and it's ever growing. There's just more and more pools being launched, and for individual projects to launch their own pools and get enough ADA delegated for funding their projects, it's a real challenge. And that's why we decided to launch this multi-ISPO, because thankfully, and we're really grateful to our community, we've been able to build really, really strong pools like starting from Genius Yield. And we wanted to continue to operate those pools so that the startups that are running through our program could benefit from it, so that they can, gain additional funding to continue building out their projects. And in order for any of the startups to actually join the multi-ISPO, we actually, like, it's not like any startup that runs through a program can join it. It really depends on timing, like how far along they are in their development. Also making sure that, they have already their token classified legally. And it makes sense for them to, join the ISPO and eventually like launch your token in the near coming future after the ISPO ends. So we really take into the consideration, because we want to make sure that on one side, like, of course, as a program, like, our credibility remains strong. And any startup that we put through to our ISPO, that we are quite certain that, they will succeed and they will do well once they launch your token and finish at ISPO. So we're really also like selective. We're not just like putting, shoving any projects, into these ISPOs. Like, we only do the ones that we know that are ready for it. And yeah, we hope we can continue this. But I know that, yeah, the landscape of ISPOs is just getting really competitive, and it's not always, it can get a bit like, there's like fatigue of, delegating to the same pool over and over again. I understand, like, it's easy, it's exciting to maybe like delegate to new pools, and yeah, we'll see what the future holds, but hopefully we can continue running these multi-ISPOs.
It's kind of like an index fund almost. So you're just kind of investing in multiple different things, but a startup index.
Exactly, yeah. Like diversifying your portfolio with one pool.
Yeah. Very risky, but it's a good little play.
Yeah, I mean, everything comes with a risk, right? There's no such thing as a zero risk investment. So
Yeah, the best thing about ISPOs is you're only risking losing out on your rewards.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
Only risk is just having your ADA sitting around in your wallet and doing nothing.
Yeah. So I had a question, maybe put you on the spot.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's your favorite project coming out of Genius X so far? I mean, it doesn't have to be your favorite, but one you're excited about most. It's got something unique about it that you're enthused about.
Yeah, actually, yeah, maybe maybe I'll be too honest. But actually, there's one project that I feel like deserves a lot more attention. And I really trying to get Tiffany fired here. No, but I mean, for one of the projects that like are currently in the multi-ISPO, and I feel like they deserve a lot more attention for what they've been able to achieve, is Reach Metaverse. Like, the founders are like, the team is genuinely like such an amazing team. It's been like a real pleasure to work with them. They've grown so much. They've shown like so much of their potential and capabilities like through the program. And the fact that, like, I don't know, I'm just like continuously to be amazed by what they're able to do week on week. Just like watching their updates on YouTube, like through their metaverse builder tools and the new partnerships that they're having with different projects. Even they partnered with the projects that are not even building on Cardano and working with them, which is, I think, great to bring, additional exposure to what startups are doing within the Cardano ecosystem. So yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I see that you put the link to their website. Yeah, thanks. I guess thank you for putting me on the spot.
Hopefully you don't lose face with all the rest
Yeah,
of them.
I hope I don't.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, to be honest, all the projects, everyone that has been like such a how do you say, like, it's been so great to be part of their different journeys. And I guess like I have a bit of a soft spot for Reach in particular, just because I also like, I myself, like, I was in 3D modeling and AR VR world. So I really understood their product and what they're trying to build, like from the first moment that they joined the program. So I think that's why like I just had like have a little soft spot for them in particular, but that's not like I'm not singling them out or like, you know, trying to put anyone else down, but it just, yeah, that's the way I can answer your question.
Yeah, I think you did it well. I think you covered yourself.
Thanks.
So the like that team obviously are good. They got some ground in place already. So what did you like add value to? What was the biggest contribution that Genius X gave them over, you know, just running themselves?
I mean, actually quite a bit from all different angles. Like, I mean, sure, they had on the product side, like basically they're like set, like, you know, with their small team, they're able to do a lot. But when it comes to you know, the token design on the legal side, as well as like fundraising strategy, like pitch deck presentation, and also like white paper, all of these areas, we were able to provide them additional support and help them in those areas.
And so is that quite typical? Then you'll have like a core team who have got skills in an area and they're formed around that skill set, but actually they're lacking in the whole wider infrastructure you need.
Because I mean, I think that's always a challenge of any startup, right? I mean, you can have really great like technical developers, or you can be like a technical team. So like building is not a problem. You can do it with as little like cash flow, like you can just like a bootstrap team and continue to build. But it's so difficult to just multitask with such a small team and know like where to put your focus on next. Like, is that marketing? Like, what is my business strategy? You know, do I do this? Do I do that? And it sometimes helps to have like some extra pair of helping hands to kind of guide you in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, I really think that that's a big struggle, because when you have so much capabilities, like that you can do anything, you want to do everything, but then like you need to like focus your efforts in a specific area, otherwise you're just not going to be efficient and not going to be able to achieve as much as like you want to in the end. And yeah, a lot of these teams, like they have a lot of strengths, but also like everyone has like certain weaknesses, right? So that's where we're trying to fill in those gaps as much as possible and guide them in the right path, in the right direction, to make sure that we're able to like maximize on their potential growth as much as possible.
Just want to interject for a second to say that like your point about like when you have all this capability, you want to do everything. It's like really resonated. I feel like you called me out.
Yeah, but definitely like even myself, I'm learning on a day-to-day basis, because just sometimes I have just so many things that come my way, like so many tasks, and I realize that if I don't focus on just one vertical, like one area, I'm not able to really be efficient, and like I cannot like maximize my personal like potential in this area if I just spread myself thin. Like multitasking is definitely not the way forward.
Absolutely. Basically, I cannot deliver what I would expect of myself, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Any other questions? Cool.
I filled the room with silence.
With crickets.
Yeah, with crickets.
Cool, awesome. Then I think we fit under 1 hour, which I think cool. Thank you, Yoram, for being here.
Thank you.
And it's good for the mental health, to keep the mental health fresh, not staying too many hours in front of the computer. So we try to keep these meetings kind of under 1 hour. So thank you very much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Juliana, for having me. It's
Thank you.
really
Thanks
nice
for
to
your
talk.
patience.
Yeah, thank you all. Have a good day, have a good night, and maybe I'll be around soon.
Yes, absolutely.
All
Thank you,
right.
Tiffany. Wonderful.
Thank you, Natalie. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
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 Bye.